The black sedan pulled up with the quiet authority of money and power. Simone Carter pressed herself against the brick wall, heart hammering as three men in expensive suits stepped out. She recognized the walk, predators who owned every inch of ground they touched. But it was the man in the center who made her blood freeze. Victor Kim. The man she'd hired for $500 to be her fake boyfriend. The man who was supposed to help her save face at her company's gala. The man who, she was realizing with dawning horror, was definitely not some struggling actor. "Find her," his voice carried across the night air, cold and commanding. "Simone Carter. I want to know everything about her." As the men dispersed into the Atlanta night, Simone slid down the wall, her designer dress catching on rough brick. She'd thought she was so clever, hiring a boyfriend to impress her boss. She'd thought she could control the situation. She had no idea she'd stepped into a world where the stakes were life and death, and the man hunting her was about to turn her carefully controlled life completely upside down. Welcome to Korean Mafia lovers. Hey there, please drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button. Your support makes the difference for us to keep creating these intense emotional stories. 3 days earlier, Simone Carter sat in her cramped studio apartment in downtown Atlanta, staring at bills spread across her coffee table like a losing hand. Red final notice stamps mocked her with their urgency. Rent, $847. Credit cards, $4,500. Her secretary's salary at Morrison & Associates barely covered basics, let alone the mountain of debt growing taller every month. She'd taken the job 2 years ago with dreams of climbing the corporate ladder. Instead, she fetched coffee for lawyers who made more in a day than she made in 3 months. Her phone buzzed with Maya's text. "Girl, you better be coming to the company gala tomorrow. Mr. Morrison specifically asked if you'd be there." Simone's stomach dropped. The annual gala was the firm's biggest social event. Partners, clients, and staff mingling in a display that could make or break careers. She'd planned to skip it, claiming illness, because she couldn't afford a decent dress. But if Mr. Morrison had specifically asked, she opened her laptop wincing at her bank balance. $847, enough for rent or gala expenses, not both. A sponsored ad caught her eye. Rent a Date Atlanta, professional companions for any occasion. Desperate times called for desperate measures. The website was surprisingly professional. Clean design, testimonials, attractive companions for social events and business functions. One profile stopped her scrolling. A gorgeous man with sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, perfectly styled hair. Victor Kim, 32, business professional, experienced with corporate events, $500 for evening events. $500 would wipe out most of her remaining money, but if Mr. Morrison was taking notice, this could be her chance. Show up with a sophisticated date, make the right impression, maybe finally get promoted. Her finger clicked book now, before rational thought could stop her. The next evening, Simone stood before her bathroom mirror, applying makeup with trembling hands. She'd found a black cocktail dress at consignment for $50, simple but elegant, hugging her curves perfectly. Her natural hair was styled in soft curls framing her face. The knock came at exactly 7 p.m. Simone took a deep breath and opened the door. Victor Kim was even more striking in person. His perfectly tailored tuxedo probably cost more than her monthly salary. Dark hair styled with casual precision, and when he smiled, it transformed his entire face from intimidating to warm. Simone Carter. His voice was deep with a hint of accent that made her name sound exotic. "I'm Victor. You look absolutely stunning." Heat rose in her cheeks. "Thank you. You clean up well yourself." He stepped closer and she caught expensive cologne, woody and masculine. "Before we go, we should discuss our story. How long dating? How did we meet?" 6 months? Coffee shop in Buckhead. You're in business consulting. Perfect. He offered his arm with old-fashioned courtesy. "Shall we?" The ride in his sleek Mercedes was surreal. Victor was perfect, asking about her job, interests, listening with genuine attention. By the time they reached the Four Seasons, Simone had almost forgotten this was an act. The ballroom was transformed into elegant wonderland. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white-draped tables. Simone had attended before as invisible support staff. Tonight, walking on Victor's arm, she felt the shift in attention immediately. "Simone," Mr. Morrison approached, stern face brightening. "You look lovely. And who is this?" Mr. Morrison, I'd like you to meet Victor Kim. Victor, this is James Morrison, our founding partner. Victor's handshake was firm, smile confident but respectful. A pleasure, sir. Simone speaks of the firm constantly. You've built something impressive. Victor's in business consulting, Simone added, marveling at how natural the lie sounded. Excellent. Simone, I've been meaning to discuss the Henderson account with you. Perhaps we could schedule time next week? The Henderson account was their biggest client. Simone's heart raced. Of course, Mr. Morrison, I'd be honored. As her boss moved away, Victor's hand settled on her lower back, warm and possessive. You're trembling. This is huge for me. The Henderson account could change everything. Something flickered in his dark eyes, an expression she couldn't read. You deserve recognition for your hard work. The evening continued like a dream. Victor was perfect, charming colleagues, making her laugh, dancing with skill suggesting expensive lessons. When he held her close during slow songs, Simone forgot this was pretend. You're very good at this, she said as they swayed together. At what? Making me feel like I'm worth $500. His steps faltered. Simone, it's okay. I know what this is, but thank you for making tonight special. His hand tightened on her waist. You have no idea what you're worth. The words carried such conviction her breath caught. For a moment the gala faded away, only Victor's dark eyes and the feeling that something fundamental was shifting between them. Then Jessica appeared beside them, slightly drunk and wearing a malicious smile. Simone, having fun with your piece of friend? Jessica. Simone's voice was carefully neutral. Jessica had always resented Simone's work ethic. It's just so interesting. I could have sworn I saw your dates photo on some website. What was it called? Rent or something? Blood drained from Simone's face. Around them conversations quieted as people turned to listen. She felt Victor tense, but his expression remained perfectly calm. I think you might be confused, Victor said, his voice carrying a subtle edge that made Jessica step back. Perhaps you should focus on your own evening. There was something in his tone, quiet authority speaking of power and consequences. Jessica's smile faltered, and she mumbled an excuse before hurrying away. But damage was done. Simone felt curious stares, whispered conversations starting. Her carefully constructed evening was crumbling. I need air, she whispered, pulling away. She made it to the hotel's garden terrace before tears started. All her hopes of finally catching a break, destroyed by Jessica's jealousy and her own desperate gamble. Simone. Victor's voice was soft behind her. Don't, just don't. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. You can go. Look at me. Something in his voice made her turn. In moonlight, his face was sharp angles and shadows, but his eyes were gentle. What Jessica said doesn't matter. What matters is that you're brilliant, hard-working, and deserve better than this. You don't know me. I know enough. He stepped closer. I know you work 2 jobs for your mother's medical bills. I know you've been passed over for promotions 3 times, despite being the most competent person in that office. I know you spent your last $300 on a dress because you believed in yourself enough to take a chance. Her breath caught. How do you know all that? Victor's expression shifted, becoming unreadable. Because I make it my business to know things, Simone. And what I know about you is that you're extraordinary. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his entire demeanor changed. The gentle man comforting her disappeared, replaced by someone cold and dangerous. I have to go, he said, voice sharp with urgency. But this isn't over. He was gone before she could respond, leaving her alone with more questions than answers, and the unsettling feeling that Victor Kim was far more than he seemed. Simone barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Victor's face in moonlight, heard how he'd said her name like a promise. But morning brought harsh reality. She'd spent $500 on a fake boyfriend who'd abandoned her when things got complicated. Maya called as she prepared for work. Girl, what happened last night? Everyone's talking about your mysterious date. Jessica's telling anyone who'll listen he was some escort, but nobody believes her. The man looked like he could buy half the people at that gala. Simone's stomach twisted. It's complicated. Complicated how? Mr. Morrison called asking for your personal number. He wants to meet about the Henderson account today. Despite everything, hope fluttered. Really? Really? Whatever you did worked. So, Spill, who is Victor Kim? I honestly don't know, Simone admitted, which was becoming truer by the hour. She arrived at Morrison and Associates early, hoping to prepare, but stepping off the elevator, she found chaos. Police officers interviewed staff. Yellow crime scene tape blocked the conference room. What's happening? She asked Rebecca, the receptionist. Break-in. Someone got into the building last night, went through Henderson files, took everything. Contracts, financial records, everything. Simone's blood ran cold. The Henderson account, the same one Mr. Morrison wanted to discuss, the same one that could change her career. Miss Carter, a detective approached. I'm Detective Rodriguez. You attended the firm's gala last night. Yes, sir. Notice anyone acting suspiciously? Anyone particularly interested in the firm's business? Victor's face flashed in her mind. How he'd tensed when Jessica mentioned the website, the mysterious phone call, his sudden departure. But something held her back. No, nothing unusual. Mr. Morrison's office door opened. Simone, good. We need to talk. His office felt different, less like a seat of power, more like a bunker under siege. Morrison gestured for her to sit, then closed the door carefully. The Henderson account. How much do you know about their business? Their logistics, import-export 5-year client. What they import and export is complicated. His voice was carefully neutral. There are aspects requiring discretion, complete discretion. A chill ran down her spine. What kind of aspects? The kind that make them valuable clients and dangerous enemies. He leaned forward. Simone, I need complete honesty. Have you ever discussed the Henderson account with anyone outside this firm? No, sir, never. Good. He relaxed slightly. Last night's break-in wasn't random. Someone specifically targeted Henderson's files, someone who knew exactly what they were looking for. Inside job? Someone with specific information about our security and filing systems. His eyes sharpened. Tell me about your date. Victor Kim. Her mouth went dry. What about him? Where did you meet? How long have you known him? The lies felt flimsy now. Coffee shop, 6 months. What does he do? Business consulting. Morrison pulled out his phone, showing her a photo. Victor, but not the gentleman from last night. This Victor was in a black suit, surrounded by serious-looking men, walking from what looked like a courthouse. This photo was taken 3 months ago in Los Angeles. Victor Kim, also known as Seung-Ho Kim, leaving federal court after charges were dropped. Charges related to money laundering and racketeering. The room tilted. That's impossible. Simone, I need you to think carefully. Did Victor ask questions about your work, our clients, the firm's security? She tried to remember conversations, but her mind was reeling. He knew things about me, things I never told him. What kind of things? My mother's medical bills being passed over for promotions. He said he made it his business to know things. Morrison's face went pale. Simone, I think you may be in danger. Rebecca's voice came over the intercom. Mr. Morrison, there's a Victor Kim here to see Simone Carter. Says it's urgent. Blood drained from Simone's face. He's here. Don't see him. I'll call security. No. Simone stood, surprising herself with decisiveness. I need answers. Simone, if this man is who I think, then I'm already involved, aren't I? The Henderson account, the break-in, Victor showing up. This isn't coincidence. I'm already in the middle of whatever this is. Morrison studied her. You're stronger than I gave you credit for. I have to be. She walked to the lobby on unsteady legs. Victor stood by reception, and seeing him in bright office lighting was jarring. Still devastatingly handsome, impeccably dressed, but there was an edge now she'd missed before. The way he held himself spoke of coiled power. Simone. His voice was warm, but his eyes were watchful. We need to talk. Yes, we do, but not here. They walked to a small cafe 2 blocks away, neither speaking. Simone's mind whirled with questions and fears, but underneath was strange inevitability. Whatever Victor Kim really was, she'd been pulled into his orbit the moment she'd clicked book now. The cafe was nearly empty. Victor chose a corner table with clear sightlines to both entrances, a detail that didn't escape notice. You're not really an escort, she said without preamble. No. And your name isn't really Victor Kim. It's one of my names. He leaned back, studying her. You're handling this better than expected. What did you expect? Screaming? Fainting? Most people would be terrified. Maybe I should be, but I'm tired of being afraid. I've been afraid of debt, failure, taking chances. Last night was supposed to be me finally taking control, and instead you walked into mine. So it seems. What do you want with me? Victor was quiet, weighing words. The Henderson account your firm handles, it's not just logistics. I'm starting to figure that out. They move money, lots of money, for people who prefer invisible financial transactions. Money laundering, among other things. His voice was matter-of-fact. Your firm provides legal cover for their operations, very lucrative legal cover. And you want to steal from them. I want to destroy them. The intensity made her shiver. Henderson's organization killed my brother 2 years ago, made it look like an accident, but I know the truth. Pieces clicked into place. The break-in last night. That was you. That was me. And you used me to get close to the firm. Initially, yes, but that changed. When? The moment I met you. He leaned forward, eyes intense. You weren't what I expected, Simone. You were supposed to be a means to an end. Instead what? Instead, you made me remember what it feels like to want something other than revenge. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Simone felt her anger wavering. You lied to me. Yes. You used me. Yes. And now you're asking me to help you destroy my employer. I'm asking you to help me get justice for my brother, and I'm asking you to trust me when I say your firm is not what you think it is. What's that supposed to mean? It means Morrison and Associates doesn't just provide legal services to Henderson. They're partners, full partners in money laundering, drug trafficking, and human trafficking operations spanning 3 states. The words hit like a physical blow. That's impossible. Is it? Think about it, Simone. How does a mid-sized law firm afford offices in Atlanta's most expensive building? How do they pay salaries attracting top legal talent? How do they fund the lifestyle you saw at that gala? She wanted to deny it, but puzzle pieces she'd never noticed were falling into place. Mysterious late-night meetings, clients who paid in cash, files kept in separate, locked systems. Even if that's true, what does it have to do with me? Everything. Victor's voice was urgent. You have access to their systems. You know their routines, security protocols. You could help me get evidence to bring them all down. And destroy my career in the process. Your career is already destroyed, Simone. You just don't know it yet. What do you mean? Victor pulled out his phone, showing a news article dated that morning. Federal investigation targets Atlanta law firm in money laundering probe. Her hands shook as she read. Morrison and Associates was under federal investigation, assets being frozen, arrests expected within days. How did you... I've been working with the FBI for 6 months. Everything I've done, including last night, has been part of a larger operation to bring down Henderson's network. Your FBI? I'm a lot of things, Simone, but right now I'm the only person who can keep you safe. Safe from what? From people who will assume you know more than you do. From people who will do anything to protect their secrets. His eyes were deadly serious. Last night's break-in wasn't just about stealing files. It was about sending a message. Anyone connected to this case is now a target. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We know what you did last night. We know who you're with. Stop now, or face the consequences. Victor's expression darkened, reading over her shoulder. We need to go now. Go where? Somewhere safe. Somewhere I can protect you while we figure out our next move. Our next move. I never agreed to any next move. You agreed the moment you opened that door last night. Whether you meant to or not, you're part of this now. The only question is whether you're going to be a victim or a survivor. Outside the cafe window, a black SUV pulled up. 2 men in suits got out, eyes scanning the street with professional intensity. Decision time, Simone, Victor said, hand extended. Trust me or take your chances with them. She looked at his outstretched hand, then at the men approaching the cafe entrance. Everything logical told her to run, call police, trust the system she'd believed in her entire life. But the system had never protected her before. The system had kept her trapped in debt and desperation, while criminals in expensive suits got rich off human misery. She took his hand. Victor's Mercedes was parked in the alley behind the cafe, and they reached it just as the men entered through the front door. Simone's heart pounded, as Victor pulled smoothly into traffic, movements calm despite their urgent escape. "Where are we going?" she asked, watching mirrors for pursuit. "Safe house. FBI maintains several in the city." He glanced at her, expression softening. "Are you okay?" "No. I'm terrified, confused, and apparently unemployed as of this morning. But I'm also—" She searched for the word. "Alive. More alive than I've felt in years. I know the feeling." The safe house was a furnished apartment on the 15th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Elegant but impersonal, designed to house people temporarily. "The FBI has been investigating Henderson's organization for 2 years, Victor explained, checking the security system. "But they're smart, careful. Every time we get close, evidence disappears, witnesses recant, cases fall apart." "So they brought you in?" "They brought me in because I have something they don't. Personal motivation and knowledge of how these organizations work." He turned to face her. "I grew up in this world, Simone. My father ran a similar operation in Los Angeles before he was killed when I was 16. Your father was a criminal, yes. When he died, I had a choice: take over his organization or find another way to survive. I chose survival, but that meant learning to navigate both sides of the law. It made me valuable to the FBI. And dangerous to people like Henderson. Very dangerous." Simone walked to the windows, looking out at the city. Somewhere down there, her life was falling apart. Her job was gone, her boss was dead, and she was hiding with a man who was either her salvation or destruction. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we finish what we started. The files I took from your firm last night contained financial records going back 5 years. With Morrison dead, you're one of the few people who can help us understand how money flowed through the firm. I'm just a secretary. You're the person who processed those transactions. You filed those reports, scheduled meetings, handled communications. You know more than you realize, Simone. And if I help you, we bring down the people who killed Morrison, who killed my brother, who have been profiting from human misery for years. And if I don't?" Victor was quiet for a long moment. "If you don't, they'll assume you know too much anyway. They'll come for you regardless." The truth settled over her like a weight. There was no going back to her old life, no pretending this hadn't happened. She was in the game now, whether she wanted to be or not. "Show me the files," she said. They spent 3 hours going through financial records, transaction reports, and correspondence. Simone's knowledge proved invaluable. She could identify patterns, explain seemingly random transactions, decode bureaucratic language hiding the true nature of business. "This account," she said, pointing to transfers. "I remember this. Morrison told me it was for a client's real estate investments, but look at the timing. Every transfer corresponds to dates when Henderson's ships arrived at the port of Savannah." "Drug shipments," Victor confirmed. "Payment for protection and distribution. And this one, legal fees for immigration services. But I never processed any immigration paperwork for these amounts. Human trafficking. They were charging people for passage into the country, then selling them into forced labor." Each revelation hit Simone like a physical blow. For 2 years, she'd been an unwitting participant in crimes that destroyed lives. Every transaction she'd processed, every file she'd organized, had been part of a machine that fed on human suffering. "I helped them," she whispered. "I made this possible." "You didn't know." "Does that matter? Those people, those victims, will get justice because of what you're doing now." Victor's voice was firm. "You can't change the past, Simone, but you can help ensure there are no more victims." His phone rang. "Agent Kim." "What? When?" "We'll be ready." He hung up, expression grim. "They found us." "Who found us?" "Henderson's people. They're in the building." The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting eerie shadows across the apartment. "How is that possible? This is supposed to be secure." "Nothing is secure when you're dealing with people who have unlimited resources and no conscience." Victor moved quickly to a closet, pulling out a duffel bag. "We need to go now." "Where?" "Anywhere but here." He handed her a bulletproof vest. "Put this on." "Victor, I don't know how to do this. I'm not trained for—" "You don't need training, you just need to trust me." His hands were gentle, helping her with the vest. "Can you do that?" Looking into his eyes, Simone saw not the dangerous criminal or federal agent, but the man who'd held her while they danced, who'd listened to her dreams with genuine interest, who'd made her feel valued for the first time in her life. "Yes," she said, "I trust you." The elevator was out, so they took the stairwell. Victor moved with practiced silence, checking each landing before proceeding. They made it to the 10th floor before hearing voices echoing from below. "2 men, maybe 3, Victor whispered. "They're checking each floor systematically. What do we do?" "We go up." "Up? Shouldn't we be trying to get out?" "They'll expect us to go down. Sometimes the best escape is the one no one anticipates." They climbed to the roof, emerging into bright Atlanta afternoon. The city stretched out around them, oblivious to the deadly game being played in its midst. "There," Victor pointed to an adjacent building. "We can jump across." Simone looked at the gap, maybe 6 feet but 15 stories above ground. "You're insane. I'm motivated, and so are you, or you wouldn't have made it this far." The roof access door burst open. 3 men in dark suits emerged, guns drawn. "Victor Kim," the lead man called out. "Step away from the woman. This doesn't have to involve her." "Everything involves her now," Victor called back, his own weapon appearing with fluid grace. "She knows too much." "Then you know how this ends." "Yes," Victor said quietly, eyes never leaving Simone's face. "I do." Without warning, he grabbed her hand and ran toward the building's edge. For a moment, Simone thought he was pulling her over the edge to their deaths. Instead, he swept her into his arms and leaped. They landed hard on the adjacent rooftop, rolling to absorb impact. Simone's ears were ringing, body aching, but she was alive. "Are you hurt?" Victor's hands moved over her, checking for injuries. "I don't think so." She looked back at the building they'd escaped. The men were already moving, probably heading for the stairwell to pursue them. "How did you know we'd make it?" "I didn't, but I knew staying meant certain death, and jumping meant possible survival. Sometimes that's the best choice you get." They made their way down through the building and out onto the street, blending into the afternoon crowd. Victor's phone was buzzing constantly, but he ignored it. "We need to disappear for a while," he said. "Somewhere they won't think to look." "Where?" "I know a place." "But Simone—" He stopped walking and turned to face her. "After this, there's no going back. If you help me finish this, you'll be a target for the rest of your life. These people don't forget, and they don't forgive. And if I don't help you, they'll kill you anyway, but at least this way your death will mean something." Standing on a busy Atlanta street corner, surrounded by people living their normal lives, Simone made the decision that would define the rest of her existence. "Then let's make it mean something." The warehouse in industrial Atlanta looked abandoned, but Victor led her through corridors to a hidden section converted into a high-tech operations center. Banks of computers lined the walls. Surveillance monitors showed feeds from across the city. "Welcome to the real FBI task force," Victor said as they entered. A woman in her 40s looked up from a computer terminal. "Agent Kim, we've been trying to reach you. Agent Sarah Chen, meet Simone Carter. Simone Sarah is the lead investigator on the Henderson case." Agent Chen studied Simone with sharp eyes. "Ms. Carter, I understand you've had quite an eventful day." "That's one way to put it. We need to debrief you immediately. The situation has escalated beyond what any of us anticipated." They sat around a conference table as Chen pulled up files on a large monitor. At 2 p.m. today, James Morrison was killed in what appeared to be a car accident. At 2:30 p.m., Henderson organization lawyers filed paperwork to seize all Morrison and Associates assets, claiming breach of contract. At 3 p.m., 3 key witnesses in our investigation disappeared. "Disappeared how?" Simone asked. "Vanished, no trace. Their families have no idea where they are." Chen's expression was grim. "This is coordinated effort to eliminate anyone who could testify against Henderson's organization, which includes me, which definitely includes you." Chen leaned forward. "Ms. Carter, what I'm about to tell you is classified, but given your situation, you need to understand the full scope of what we're dealing with." She clicked to a new screen showing a complex organizational chart. Henderson's operation isn't just local. It's part of an international network spanning 12 countries, generating over $2 billion annually in illegal revenue. They traffic drugs, weapons, and people. They launder money for terrorist organizations. They've corrupted officials at every level of government. Simone stared at the chart, trying to process the magnitude. And Morrison and Associates was part of this. Morrison and Associates was the legal backbone of their entire East Coast operation. Every major transaction, every property acquisition, every shell company, it all went through your firm. How long has this been going on? At least 8 years, possibly longer. The weight hit her like a physical blow. For 2 years, she'd been processing paperwork for an organization that destroyed lives on an industrial scale. Every invoice she'd filed, every meeting she'd scheduled, had been part of a machine feeding on human suffering. "I need a moment," she said, standing abruptly. She walked to the window overlooking the warehouse floor, trying to steady her breathing. Victor appeared beside her, his presence both comforting and unsettling. "I know it's a lot to process," he said quietly. 8 years, Victor. 8 years of this, and nobody stopped it. People tried, investigators, prosecutors, journalists, they all ended up dead or discredited. His voice was bitter. "That's why the FBI brought me in. Sometimes you need someone who understands how these organizations think, how they operate. Someone who grew up in that world." "Yes." She turned to face him. "Tell me about your brother. The truth this time." Victor was quiet for a long moment. "Min-ho. He was 3 years younger than me, and everything I wasn't. Kind, trusting, believed the best in people. What happened to him? He fell in love with the wrong woman. Sarah Henderson, daughter of the man who runs the organization we're trying to bring down. Min-ho thought he could save her, help her escape her father's world." Victor's voice was tight with old pain. "Instead, she led him into a trap. They made his death look like an accident, but I know the truth. I'm sorry. He was going to be a teacher, can you imagine? My little brother, who grew up in the same world I did, wanted to spend his life helping kids learn to read." Victor's smile was bitter. "He was the good one. I'm just the one who survived." "You're more than that." "Am I?" He looked at her with genuine curiosity. "What do you see when you look at me, Simone?" The question caught her off guard. "I see someone who's been hurt, someone who's angry but trying to channel that anger into something meaningful. I see someone who held me like I was precious last night, even though it was all supposed to be fake. It wasn't fake. Not the way I felt. Victor, I know it's crazy. I know the circumstances are impossible, but what I felt when I held you, when I saw you light up talking about your work, when you stood up to Jessica's cruelty with such grace, that was real. Agent Chen approached them. "We've received new intelligence. Henderson is moving tonight, liquidating assets, eliminating witnesses, preparing to disappear. If we don't act now, we'll lose our chance." "What do you need from us?" Victor asked. "The financial records you obtained from Morrison and Associates contain account numbers and transaction codes we need to freeze Henderson's assets. But the codes are encrypted, and we need someone who understands the firm's system to decode them." All eyes turned to Simone. "That would be me." "It's dangerous," Chen warned. "Henderson's people are monitoring all electronic communications. The moment you access those systems, they'll know where you are. How long would I need? 30 minutes, maybe 45. And how long before they could trace the access? 10 minutes if they're fast." Victor stepped forward. "It's too risky." "It's the only way," Simone said quietly. "You said it yourself. Sometimes the best choice is the one that gives you possible survival instead of certain death." "Simone, no." Her voice was firm. "I've been running from risk my entire life, playing it safe, keeping my head down, hoping someone else would solve my problems. Look where it got me." She turned to Chen. "What do you need me to do?" The next hour was preparation. Chen's team set up a secure connection to Morrison and Associates servers, while Victor coordinated with tactical teams positioned around the city. Simone studied the encrypted files, looking for patterns she recognized. "There," she said, pointing to transactions. "This code sequence, I remember it. Morrison used it for his highest priority clients. Can you decode it?" "I think so, but I'll need to access the firm's main database." "That's the risk," Chen said. "The moment you log in, Henderson's people will know. Then we better work fast." At 8 p.m., Simone sat at the computer terminal. Her hands shook slightly as she entered login credentials. The Morrison and Associates system came online, and she began navigating to encrypted files. I'm in, she announced. Clock starts now, Chen said. 10 minutes before they can trace us. Simone's fingers flew over the keyboard, accessing files she'd organized but never fully understood. Account numbers, routing codes, transaction histories, all the digital breadcrumbs of a criminal empire. First account decoded, she announced. Cayman Islands, $47 million. Freezing it now, Chen confirmed. Second account, Switzerland, $23 million is frozen. Third account. Simone paused, staring at the screen. This can't be right. What is it? This account is registered to Morrison and Associates, but it's not in any of our official records. It's James Morrison's personal account. How much? Victor asked quietly. $156 million. The room fell silent. Chen was first to speak. Morrison wasn't just facilitating Henderson's money laundering, he was skimming. That's why they killed him, Victor realized, not because he was cooperating with the FBI, but because he was stealing from them. Which means... Simone's voice trailed off as implications hit her. Which means they don't just want to eliminate witnesses, Chen finished. They want to recover their money. And they think you know where it is. An alarm started blaring. They've traced us, Chen announced. Everyone out now. But as they moved toward the exit, the lights went out. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the warehouse as armed figures appeared at every entrance. Federal agents, a voice called out. Drop your weapons and surrender. That's not FBI, Chen said grimly. That's Henderson's people with stolen equipment. Victor grabbed Simone's hand. Stay close to me. Gunfire erupted across the warehouse. Chen's team returned fire from behind computer terminals and equipment racks. In the chaos, Victor pulled Simone toward a service corridor she hadn't noticed before. Where are we going? Emergency exit. Chen's people will hold them off as long as they can. They made it halfway down the corridor before a figure stepped out of the shadows ahead. Sarah Henderson, beautiful, blonde, and pointing a gun directly at Simone's chest. Hello, Victor, she said, her voice carrying a slight southern accent. I've been looking forward to seeing you again. Sarah. Victor's voice was cold. I should have killed you 2 years ago. You should have, but you always were too sentimental. Her eyes shifted to Simone. Just like your brother. Leave her out of this. I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, Ms. Carter here has something that belongs to my family. $156 million to be precise. I don't know anything about that money, Simone said. Of course you do. You processed the transactions. You have the access codes. You're the only person left alive who can transfer those funds. Even if that were true, why would I help you? Sarah's smile was cold. Because if you don't, I'll kill Victor, the same way I killed his brother. Slowly. Painfully. While you watch. You won't get away with this, Victor said. The FBI knows everything. The FBI knows what we've allowed them to know. Did you really think we weren't aware of your little investigation? We've been feeding you information for months, letting you think you were making progress. The witnesses who disappeared are safe in our custody. The evidence you thought you were gathering, carefully curated to lead you exactly where we wanted you. Simone felt the world tilting. The files Victor stole from the firm contained exactly what we wanted them to contain, enough truth to be believable, enough lies to be useless in court. But Morrison's death was necessary because he got greedy. But it also served our purposes perfectly. It brought you and Victor together, made you trust each other, made you think you were fighting for justice. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. You've been manipulating us from the beginning. From the moment Victor contacted that escort service, did you really think it was coincidence that he was available that exact night, that he was perfect for your needs? Simone looked at Victor, seeing truth in his eyes. You knew. You knew I was going to hire you. I knew someone from Morrison and Associates had made an inquiry. I didn't know it would be you. But you took the job anyway. I took the job because it was my mission. I stayed because... He looked at her with such intensity her breath caught. I stayed because you changed everything. How touching, Sarah said, but we're wasting time. Miss Carter, you're going to transfer that money to an account I specify. Now. And if I refuse... Sarah's gun shifted to Victor. Then I start by shooting him in the knee, then the other knee. Then we see how long his noble spirit lasts. Don't do it, Simone, Victor said quietly. Whatever happens to me, don't give them what they want. How heroic, just like your brother. Sarah's finger tightened on the trigger. He said the same thing right before I put a bullet in his head. Something snapped in Victor's eyes. With movement too fast to follow, he lunged at Sarah. The gun went off, the sound deafening in the confined space. Both figures went down in a tangle of limbs. Victor! Simone dropped to her knees beside them. Victor was on top, his hands around Sarah's throat, but blood was spreading across his shirt. Sarah's gun lay a few feet away. The money, he gasped. Transfer it to the FBI account. Chen has the routing number. You're hurt. Do it now, before more of them come. Simone grabbed Sarah's phone and accessed the banking app she'd seen her using. With shaking fingers, she navigated to the account Victor had identified and initiated the transfer. $156 million, flowing from Henderson's hidden account to federal custody. Transfer complete, she announced. Victor's grip on Sarah's throat loosened, and she gasped for air. You have no idea what you've just done, she wheezed. My father will hunt you to the ends of the earth. Let him try, Victor said, his voice weak but determined. We have everything we need now. Sirens were approaching, real FBI this time, Chen's backup finally arriving. Sarah Henderson was taken into custody, and paramedics rushed Victor to the hospital. As Simone sat in the ambulance beside him, holding his hand while medics worked to stop the bleeding, she realized everything had changed, not just her circumstances, but her fundamental understanding of who she was and what she was capable of. You saved my life, Victor said weakly. You saved mine first. We're even then. No, Simone said, squeezing his hand. We're just getting started. 2 weeks later, Simone stood in the witness box of a federal courthouse in Atlanta, facing a room full of reporters, prosecutors, and defense attorneys. The Henderson organization's trial had become the biggest criminal case in Georgia's history, and her testimony was crucial to securing convictions. Ms. Carter, the federal prosecutor began, can you tell the court about your role in processing financial transactions for Morrison and Associates? Simone's voice was steady as she recounted the details, the coded transactions, shell companies, systematic laundering of money from drug and human trafficking operations. Every question answered was another nail in the coffin of the organization that had destroyed so many lives. In the gallery, Victor sat in the front row, his arm still in a sling from the gunshot wound, but his eyes never leaving her face. His presence gave her strength, reminded her she wasn't alone in this fight for justice. And the $156 million recovered from Mr. Morrison's hidden account, the prosecutor continued. How were you able to access those funds? I had processed the original transactions that created the account. When I decoded the files, I recognized the patterns and was able to trace the money back to its source. What happened to those funds? They were transferred to federal custody and are being used to compensate victims of the Henderson organization's crimes. When the defense attorney cross-examined her, he tried to paint her as a willing participant in the money laundering scheme, but Simone had learned to stand her ground, to speak her truth with confidence that came from knowing she was fighting for something bigger than herself. Ms. Carter, isn't it true that you profited from these illegal transactions through your salary at Morrison and Associates? I earned a secretary's salary for doing secretarial work. I had no knowledge of the illegal nature of the transactions I was processing. But you continued to work there for 2 years. I continued to work there because I needed the job to pay my bills and support my family. The moment I learned the truth about what was happening, I risked my life to help stop it. After 3 days of testimony, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty verdicts on all counts for the surviving members of the Henderson organization. Sarah Henderson received life in prison without parole. Her father, captured trying to flee to a non-extradition country, received the same sentence. Outside the courthouse, Simone found herself surrounded by reporters and cameras, but it was Victor's presence beside her that mattered most. Ms. Carter, what's next for you? A reporter called out. I'm starting law school in the fall, she announced, surprising even herself with the decision she'd made that morning. I want to make sure that what happened to me never happens to anyone else. And Agent Kim, will you be continuing your work with the FBI? Victor's arm slipped around Simone's waist, a gesture that felt both protective and possessive. I'll be wherever I'm needed most. Later that evening, they sat on the rooftop terrace of Victor's downtown Atlanta apartment, a real apartment this time, not a safe house. The city spread out below them, lights twinkling like stars in the gathering dusk. "Law school," Victor said, handing her a glass of wine. "When did you decide that?" "When I was sitting in that courtroom, watching those lawyers fight for justice, I realized I want to be the person who protects people like me, people who get caught up in situations they don't understand, who need someone to fight for them. It won't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is." She looked at him over her wine glass. "What about you? What happens to Victor Kim now that the case is closed?" "That depends. On what?" "On whether a certain law student might need a study partner." Simone laughed, the sound bright and free in the evening air. "Are you asking me out, Agent Kim? Because I should warn you, I have very high standards now. The last guy I dated turned out to be a federal agent working undercover to bring down a criminal organization. Sounds like a dangerous man." "Extremely dangerous." She set down her wineglass and moved closer to him. "But also brave and kind and willing to risk everything for what's right. And devastatingly handsome." "That too." Victor's free hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing the line of her cheekbone. "Simone, what we went through together, it wasn't normal. It wasn't how relationships usually start. Nothing about us has been normal. I need you to know that what I feel for you isn't just adrenaline or trauma bonding. It's not because we survived something together. Then what is it? It's because you're the strongest person I've ever met, because you looked at an impossible situation and chose to fight instead of run, because you made me remember that there's more to life than revenge. Victor, I love you," he said simply. "I loved you from the moment you opened your door that first night, looking so beautiful and nervous and determined. I loved you when you stood up to Jessica at the gala. I loved you when you chose to trust me even when you had every reason not to. And I'll love you whether you're a secretary or a lawyer or anything else you decide to become." Tears pricked at Simone's eyes. "You saved my life. You saved mine first. You made me remember who I wanted to be instead of who I thought I had to be." She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, the city light seemed brighter, the future more possible. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now we build something real, something that's ours, not dictated by circumstances or danger or other people's crimes." "I'd like that." "Good." His smile was warm and genuine, free of the shadows that had haunted him for so long. "Because I have plans for us, Simone Carter. Big plans. Such as helping you get through law school. Such as maybe finding a house with a yard where we can have barbecues and argue about whose turn it is to do the dishes. Such as building a life that's boring and normal and perfect." Boring sounds wonderful. It does, doesn't it? They sat together as the night deepened around them, talking about the future with the easy intimacy of two people who had seen each other at their worst and chosen to stay. The trauma of the past weeks was already beginning to fade, replaced by something stronger and more lasting. "Victor," Simone said as they prepared to go inside. "Yes?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For showing me that I'm worth more than $500. His laugh was rich and warm. "Simone Carter, you're worth everything." Years later, Simone Carter Kim stood in her law office overlooking downtown Atlanta, reviewing case files for her latest clients, 3 women who had been trafficked by an organization similar to Henderson's. Her firm, Carter & Associates, specialized in representing victims of organized crime, and she'd built a reputation as one of the most effective advocates in the Southeast. The door opened behind her, and she smiled without turning around. She knew that walk, that presence. "How did the deposition go?" Victor asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Better than expected. The defense attorney tried to intimidate my client, but she held her ground." "She's stronger than she knows." "Sounds familiar." "Does it?" Simone leaned back against his chest, still amazed by how perfectly they fit together. "How was your day?" "Productive. The new task force is making good progress on the Valdez case. Victor had left the FBI 2 years earlier to start his own consulting firm, helping law enforcement agencies understand and combat organized crime. His unique background made him one of the most sought-after consultants in the country. Any interesting developments?" "Actually, yes." He turned her in his arms, his expression serious. "We received intelligence about a new organization moving into Atlanta, similar structure to Henderson's group, but more sophisticated. Do you think they're connected to the women I'm representing?" "That's possible. We should compare notes." "Later," Simone said, reaching up to straighten his tie. Right now, I have more important things to think about. Such as the fact that it's our anniversary. 3 years since the night you hired me for $500. Best investment I ever made, even though it nearly got you killed, especially because it nearly got me killed. Her smile was radiant. It led me to you. It led me to this life, this work, this purpose. It led me to becoming the person I was always meant to be. Victor's kiss was soft and reverent, full of the love that had sustained them through trials and triumphs alike. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. I have something for you, he said. Victor, we agreed no gifts. It's not that kind of gift. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and Simone's breath caught. Is that... Simone Carter, you transformed my life from the moment I met you. You made me believe in justice instead of just revenge. You made me believe in love instead of just survival. You made me believe in a future instead of just the past. He dropped to one knee in her law office, surrounded by the case files of people they were fighting to protect, in the city where they'd found each other and built their life together. Will you marry me? The ring was perfect, a classic solitaire that caught the light from the windows, simple and elegant and eternal. But it was the look in Victor's eyes that took her breath away, the love and hope and absolute certainty that they belonged together. Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes, of course, yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Simone thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. The desperate secretary who had hired a fake boyfriend for one night was gone, replaced by a confident attorney who fought for justice every day. The revenge-driven federal agent was gone too, replaced by a man who had learned to build instead of just destroy. They had both been transformed by love, by purpose, by the choice to fight for something bigger than themselves. I love you, Simone Carter. I love you too, Victor Kim, forever. Outside their windows, Atlanta hummed with life and possibility. Somewhere in the city, there were people who needed their help, cases that needed their attention, justice that needed their fight. But for this moment, there was only love, only the promise of a future they would build together, only the certainty that they had found in each other exactly what they never knew they were missing. The poor secretary and the Korean Mafia boss had become something neither had imagined possible, partners in every sense of the word, fighting side by side for a better world. And it had all started with $500 and the courage to take a chance on love.